everybody, it's Chris Eads, known online as Wootini, here with another one of my Gay Gamer video podcasts for you. This week I went back to the movies. I actually went to see Transformers 1, which I'd seen the trailers for it. I'm not a big Transformers fan, so I was like, meh, who cares? But then I saw it was being released in 3D, and you know I love my 3D, so I said, fine, I will go and see this in 3D opening weekend. And in fact, I went to the IMAX 3D showing. There's one a day, and it happened to be in the afternoon, which was perfect. So I saw it in IMAX 3D, and the 3D was actually kind of cool. It really did work nicely. The movie itself, I have mixed feelings on. It's an origin story of the Transformers, Optimus Prime and Megatron and Bumblebee and everybody. So it's like their origin story. But for an origin story, there's a lot of backstory still. And there's like the opening is all like, here's the story of this planet. And then it's like, here's this, and then it's like, oh, and this is what happened here, and this is what happened there, and these characters did this, and this character did that. And I'm like, there is a buttload of backstory for an origin story. It just seemed odd. It didn't feel like a jumping on point, because they're like explaining all this other shit that you need to understand so that the actual main origin story makes sense. It was a little much, and I don't know if you're a Transformers fan, if this is existing lore that you would say, yes, we know this, or if this is something, I think this is a plot they created just for this movie. So I feel like even Transformers fans would be a little bit like, okay, this is a lot to take in. Maybe not. I don't know. Your mileage may vary. I thought it was a lot. It takes a long time. There's a lot of setup before you actually get to the quest, the actual main plot of the story. But they do throw in some exciting little action set pieces so that it's not boring, getting to that point. It just takes a while to get to that point. And there are some good action scenes, and there's some funny humor. I will say the one thing that didn't really work for me was the Megatron turning evil plotline. I felt like that felt a little forced. Like all of a sudden he starts, like he's going from best friend to mortal enemy. Spoiler alert, Megatron is evil. Sorry. And I just felt like that heel turn didn't quite feel natural. Like it just sort of, all of a sudden he started getting like really, really angry all the time. It was like, oh my God, take it, calm down. And then he goes like completely insane evil. And you're like, whoa. And it's like, it didn't quite work for me. But again, your mileage may vary. The voice acting is fine. Unfortunately, like all animated movies now, it has to be celebrity voice acting, so you sit there and you go, oh yeah, that sounds just like Scarlett Johansson. Like, she's not trying to do a voice. At least Chris Hemsworth was trying to do a voice for Optimus Prime, and it even got deeper and more Optimus Prime-y at the end. But Scarlett Johansson's like, look, just give me my check and I'll read these lines, but I'm not going to actually try to do a voice of any kind. But you end up sitting there going, yep, that's Scarlett Johansson. Yep, that sounds like Steve Buscemi to me. And then you also spend the time, at least I do, where I'm like, who is that? And sometimes it's like, oh, I recognize that voice. And it like distracts you from the movie because you're trying to figure out who that voice is. But I have to say that Bumblebee, once again, favorite. Bumblebee is my favorite Transformers movie of them all. This is nice because there's no live action people in this. It's just Transformers. No real people, no humans, no Earth. It's nice, refreshing. But once again, Bumblebee is the best part of the movie. He's just funny and charming and fun, and I enjoy him. And I will say that if you have a chance to see it in 3D, I do recommend the 3D. There's a lot of great shots in 3D, especially there's one of Optimus Prime like running at the camera where he like literally like just he fills the screen and just keeps coming at you, and I like leaned back, I was like, whoa, and he gets like this close, and it was like, okay, that was kind of cool. But I also feel like there's some of the action scenes where it's just like the robot and it's just chaos. I feel like the 3D helped me to tell what was actually happening, and it separated the different characters and levels. And I feel like in 2D it might be a little overwhelming and confusing visually. But I do recommend the 3D. Also, if you go see it, there's a mid-credits tease thing that's a little humorous one, and then at the very end of the end credits, there's another little tag that is not humorous. So you're going to want to stay for the full end of the credits. As for games, like last episode, I have not been playing a lot of games. I've just not been in the mood. Not even for Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. I just was like, no, I'm not feeling like gaming. So I just did my daily Animal Crossing and Disney Dreamlight Valley stuff. I did a little extra Disney Dreamlight Valley because I spent some moonstones, and I did there's a Jack Skellington costume that I spent money on for Halloween later next month. And then I couldn't resist getting the teacup ride because I wanted the teacups. I have a little mini amusement park going in one of the areas, and I wanted the teacups. I also spent some time doing a Dream Snaps challenge. I actually crafted a pink DJ booth so that I could do this super gay. You were supposed to dress up for like a club night, like a dance night, and like make a dance club and dress up. And so I did that, and so I could submit that to Dream Snaps because I've been doing more Dream Snaps. Sometimes the challenge, I'm just like, no, that's too much work and I don't feel like doing it. But sometimes I want to do it because I keep spending moonstones on costumes and stuff, and doing Dream Snaps can get you moonstones depending on how well you rate. Now, I don't really ever rate very high. I'm like 457th or whatever. You came in 564th, but here's 300 moonstones or whatever, but I'll take whatever I can get. I have not been doing a lot of gaming, so I can't really talk about the games I'm playing. That's basically it. That's what I played. But I do want to talk about Sony. I want to talk about Sony announcing the PlayStation 5 Pro, which is $700. And I do not understand who this is for. Now, I know they've done their Pro models in the past, and again, I didn't understand then either. Because I'm like, if you spent $500 on a PlayStation 5, why are you going to spend another $700 to replace it with a PlayStation 5 Pro? That's a lot of money to be throwing away on video games. And I just don't understand who it's for. Like, if you don't have a PlayStation 5, are you really going to want to spend the extra $200 to buy the Pro? I don't know, because is it worth it? Because it's like, like 60 frames per second and 8K with like twice the ray tracing of stuff. It's like, really? It's like you're playing Gran Turismo and there's like more realistic shadows and reflections on your dashboard. Or like that tree that you're passing at 120 miles an hour has additional branches on it. Who's gonna notice? Like, I mean, I guess the extra shadows and reflections will help make things look more realistic and immersive, but who needs 8K resolution? Do they even make 8K? I think they do make 8K TVs, but I mean, they're not like popular. People don't really have them at home yet. So, like, who is this for, is my question. Because it doesn't, for me, personally, I don't know if you'll agree, but, like, when the PlayStation was released, everyone went, holy crap, it's 3D, it's polygons, it's like 3D models and 3D worlds, and we can explore them, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's so much more realistic than the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. And then, the PlayStation 2 came out, and you're like, oh my god, these graphics are even more detailed and more beautiful, and the PlayStation looked like garbage. PlayStation 2 is where it's at. Everything looks amazing. And then the PlayStation 3 comes out, and you're like, holy crap, this is even better. And then the PlayStation 4 comes out, and you're like, okay, this is a little better, I guess. Yeah, sure. Compared to the 1 and 2, 4 is amazing. But compared to the 3, 4 is like a slight graphical upgrade. And then when the 5 came out, I was in no hurry to buy a 5. Also, you couldn't buy a 5 when it first came out. You had to be on like a waiting list to get one. But there were no games that were like PS5 exclusives. And I remember at the time it was Spider-Man Miles Morales was the game that was coming out that I wanted to play. And I'm like, well, I'll just play that on my PS4. The game will be $10 cheaper than the PS5 version. And I'm sure it'll look just as great. And it did. It played great on my PS4. It looked amazing. It was fabulous. And when I did eventually, like a couple years later, get the PS5, I had played Horizon Forbidden West. And I took Horizon Forbidden West and I put that disc and downloaded the PS5 version to see if it looked better than the PS4 version that I had already played and finished. And I loaded up my save and I ran around the jungle a little bit. And I was just like, I guess maybe it's a little crisper looking. My eyes did not really perceive a majorly noticeable difference in the graphics. It still just looked good. And I'm like, at this point, how much better can the graphics get? It already looks practically photorealistic. Is it really worth the extra money? And it also just does not bode well for the next generation of systems, because the PlayStation 6, the PlayStation 5 is already prohibitively expensive. It's ridiculous. The 6 is going to be insane. That's probably going to cost $700 by itself. And who can afford such things? I'm assuming that there are some wealthy gaming nerds out there to buy the PlayStation 5 Pro. And I hope they enjoy it on their 8K TVs. No. I'm sitting here wanting to buy an Xbox, but I can't even buy the cheap Xbox to play Starfield and Rock Band. I wouldn't just be buying it for one game. It would technically be for 2 games. But I just can't justify that expense. That's going to be over $400 to play, 2 games. And I'm just like, no, then that's just $400. I'm not even talking about $700. So I could have, 60 frames per second and bonus ray tracing, whatever. It's like, no. So, yeah. But I guess if you've got that kind of money burning a hole in your pocket, enjoy. Because I don't. So, so come back next episode, and I promise I will play something so that I will have games to talk about. I don't know what it'll be. You'll have to come back and find out. Bye!